1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, welcome back to Country and Cold Cans. As always, I'm Logan, sitting here with Andy and Kyle. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, and going over to Spotify, click subscribe on that. Go on and follow us also on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars and a great review. All right, today's episode is brought to you by our sister podcast, Miserable and Reckless. You can find that anywhere where podcasts are available, most notably Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also Amazon. Make sure you check that out if you are a fan of ACC athletics, Southern sports, Southern culture. That's the podcast for you. So make sure you check out Miserable and Reckless. All right, Andy, Kyle, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, we're hanging in there.
Kicking it.
Kicking it. Where you at, Andy?
Oh, Kingdom City, Missouri.
Oh, Missouri.
Missouri. Is that on the eastern or the western side of Missouri?
It's pretty much central. It's not too far out of Columbia.
Okay, interesting. An
Solid.
SEC country down there.
Yeah, the SEC's ever expanding footprint.
Yep.
Before you know it, Texas and Oklahoma will be SEC country.
Yeah, they will in 2025 now.
Yeah. All right. Well, start things off with the other week. It was a Tuesday night about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I saw a show. I decided to go last minute. Saw a show at the Ritz here in Raleigh. It's a venue that holds anywhere, depending on the act, from like 1,500 to 2,500 people. And Andy, you and I actually saw Turnpike there. We saw Co Wetzel there. Kyle, I don't know if you've ever been to the Ritz, but you should go to that venue if you haven't at some point.
Where did we see American Aquarium at?
That was Lincoln Theater.
Lincoln Theater, okay.
Yeah, the Ritz is about twice the size of Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's in North
It's only
Raleigh.
twice as big?
It's like I said, it's 2.5.
I would have said like 3 or 4. I would have just by
Lincoln holds
eyeballs.
just under 1,000.
I guess Lincoln though packs people under that balcony too, and it makes it
They do
seem smaller to the eyeball.
Yeah, those are my 2 favorite venues in Raleigh. Actually, Lincoln number 1, the Ritz number 2. But
Isn't it like the only 2?
No, there's also Poorhouse if you want to go to a really small show. That place is cool. It's where BJ Barham got married, actually.
The Poorhouse or the whorehouse?
The Poorhouse with a P. And it's spelled like pour, P-O-U-R, like pour a beer.
Okay.
Kyle's been to Nevada too many times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting name for a place of business, the whorehouse. Hey, well, if it works, it works, you know?
Yeah, if it works, it works. I don't know what kind of clientele you might be getting, but
you might be inviting the wrong type of clientele.
Yeah. But all right, so the Ritz. A few weeks ago, Zach Bryan was in town here in Raleigh. I'm a passive fan of Zach Bryan throughout the last year or so. He's had some songs I really, really like. But I wanted to kind of really go see him in concert because it's really been one of those things that the young crowd, dude, and it was confirmed by being at the show, the young crowd absolutely loves this guy. Like the folks at college age on up to about 22, 23. Because the show, the billing for the show, Charles Wesley Godwin opened up. Definitely check him out. I think he just had a record drop. He's a fantastic artist. That was a really good set he put on. Then BJ Barham actually was the middle act as an acoustic set. He was kind of a last minute addition that Zach contacted him and asked him if he would come on the billing for that night. So that was cool. It was funny because you could tell that a lot of the Zach Bryan fans didn't really know who BJ was. And then BJ gets up there with just his cherry red Gibson guitar. And the first song he goes into was Unfortunate Con, probably one of the saddest songs that he has. And they're all just kind of looking around. But then it kind of picked up from there. He played some of the quote unquote American Aquarium hits that people were kind of, and then BJ is really good at in between song banter. So he kind of engaged the crowd a little bit more there. And I was kind of looking around. Some people were like, okay, I kind of dig this. And I kept telling everybody, I was like, got to see the full band. I said, he's a good artist, but the band behind him makes it so much more of a fun show. But then Zach Bryan came on, and I got to say, man, I came away really impressed with Zach's show. He is now touring full time because he's fulfilled his commitments to the U.S. Navy. So he's a full-time touring musician. And it went through, I knew some of the songs because, like I said, I've been a passive fan for a while, but everyone there knew every single word, every single song. That place was nuts, dude. Like the young kids, they love him. He's definitely doing something right because he's got the very fervent fan support that, Andy, it reminded me of the way we were about 5 years ago when Turnpike came to town. It's like, this is almost like their Turnpike.
5 years ago? So
Whatever
the first
it
time
was.
we ever went?
5 years ago, it was like 2017 now, 2016. That was when we saw them at the Ritz. We first went in 2014 or 15.
Yeah, I thought that was like 18 or 19 when we saw them there.
Yeah, it could have been, but the date doesn't matter at this point.
In the past.
In the past, but
when they still existed.
Definitely recommend going to see a Zach Bryan show. Like I said, good show. The crowd was really engaged, and I got to talk to him for 5-10 minutes after the show. He took the time. He was settled there in the freezing cold weather to talk to his fans near the bus. So good on him for that, man, because it's always cool to see an artist be able to be willing to sit out there and talk to, the people that are actually, I guess, supporting them. So I'm glad to hear that, because I remember hearing BJ tell stories about Chase Rice and them not wanting to talk to fans whenever they incidentally played a show together back a long time ago. But yeah, good on Zach Bryan. All right. Moving into a pretty contentious topic, it seems, because we haven't done an episode in a little while. I had a wisdom teeth surgery recently, and then we also had just some other stuff going on that we haven't recorded in a while, but now we're back. And October 4th, there was a news article talking about concert COVID policy. And Live Nation and AEG are two of the biggest concert promoters out there. Most of the venues that are not places like Lincoln Theater are all run by Live Nation. So essentially, they updated their COVID policies to now any concert venue. Reading the article now from it's a Charlotte affiliate, live5news.com. saying that beginning October 4th, any concert venue run by Live Nation is requiring proof of COVID-19 vaccination or proof of a negative COVID-19 test before seeing a show. So essentially, what that means is if you want to go to a show that the Ritz is one of those shows, because I had to do this to go see Zach Bryan and them, you have to have proof of vaccination from either a Moderna, Pfizer, or J&J shot, or a negative test within the last 48 to 72 hours. So essentially, they're asking you to show your papers now on that. But the weird thing is, before we get into our opinions, I mean, it seems like that the vaccinated people don't have to take a test. But
yeah, and I mean that's well, as somebody who has to take weekly tests at work, it's really easy to spoof. I say that speaking, I just log into my health chart through the healthcare provider here. It doesn't have a name on it or anything. I could easily screenshot this and send it to every one of you.
Yeah.
And, you just pull it up and it just it doesn't have a name. All it has is a date. And, yeah, I could get 100 people in. It's really easy to spoof.
Yeah.
So does it really do that much? No.
Yeah, I mean, look, and when I went to that Zach Bryan show, I mean, it's not like that they're really looking that hard, because it's just too many people, to be able to do that.
And I remember when this summer, you came by one evening and I was watching Limp Bizkit at Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
And Lollapalooza required identification, COVID vaccination status to get in. And they panned over to the poor security people at the gate. Yeah. And people were just holding the paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. So, I mean, are they really enforcing it? No, those people don't really care. They're just getting a check and they're going home.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny because, there have been a lot of different artist reactions to it. For instance, Jason Isbell was one of the early adopters of, I know, right? It's shocker. He was a very early adopter on this, but Jason Isbell was an early adopter on this, and he was very much in favor of doing these things, to the point that he even had a kind of like a run-in, so to speak, with one of the venues that he had a show planned before this was made mandatory. And by my understanding, the venue didn't necessarily have the ability in that short of notice to be able to implement this. And that caused some issues with Isbell and the promoter. I'm not taking a side on it. I have my personal opinions on it, but I'm not taking a side on it. But that show got canceled. But Isbell's been very, very vocal about wanting to require vaccination proof and everything. I think a little bit of that's just more so him virtue signaling his vaccination stuff more than anything. But then on the flip side, you have bands like the Steelwoods, right? They were very vocal at the very beginning about letting canceling any show that required a vaccination proof. 3 Doors Down as well, because I actually didn't get to go to the Co-Wetzel 3 Doors Down show because of that. And they were one of the first ones that said they're not going to work with venues while this is going on. One of the more big time names though has been Travis Tritt. Travis Tritt has said that he's not doing that, which again, Travis Tritt, it's like shocker, right? It's like he's the anti Jason Isbell in this regard. He's about as right wing as it gets, and Isbell's about as left wing as it gets. But yeah, like Travis Tritt's canceling a lot of his shows and everything. And if I'm being honest, I think
Smith is too.
Is he?
I know he's canceled shows over it.
Well, if I'm being honest, I think that there are a lot more artists out there that are wanting, that don't agree with it, but they're just they have to make money to pay for the pay their crew, and because they have people that are dependent on them. Like Kip Moore's one that has been kind of
that's exactly what I was about to say.
Sidestepping it a little bit, yeah.
I thought what Kip said was pretty good though, in the sense of he's like more of, I just wish this wasn't the scenario we've been put in. But he's like, we got to play. He's like, we've got families to feed. Yep. He's like, we've got to play. But he's like, I just don't, I wish we weren't in this situation. Is basically what he said.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think everybody would probably wish that we weren't in this situation. I know there are probably some extreme cases on either side that would maybe kind of relishes the issues at hand, but I just think that it's all a little bit ridiculous. Before we get into our personal opinions on it, I do want to play a clip for you guys. Grady Smith, one of my favorite country music commentators, his channel on YouTube. Mm-hmm. He spoke about this maybe earlier this week, last week, something like that. So play a little clip from his show here where he talks about this, and I think he kind of succinctly talks about what's going on.
What do I think about all this stuff? Well, I agree that it's not my business what you do with your body. I agree with the Steelwoods that I am not anti-vaccine, but I'm very much anti-mandate. I feel like America is a pretty fat and pretty old country, and the people that most need the vaccine are the elderly or the immunocompromised. And so for a lot of people, I bet it's a great idea. At the same time, I think it's very silly to require young people to get it, or people that have had COVID. Like, I think any discussion around any of this that doesn't also include like antibodies or natural immunity is not one being had in very good faith, especially because in study after study, it continues to prove robust.
Yeah, so that was Grady Smith's take on it. And honestly, I'll kick things off. I pretty much 100% agree with him on this. You guys know this from our private conversations. For the people that it makes sense for, like the most sense for, like especially older people, immunocompromised people, I'm very pro-vaccine. I think there are benefits to a lot of people for the vaccine. I don't think the vaccine's necessary for everybody though, right? Like just if you look at the different age demographics and you treat them differentially about it based on what their assessed risk is, I think that's really the way to treat this, because is it really fair to try to say that everyone has to get this vaccine even if they don't really need it? And you can't, it's like that old adage, right? They're saying that it's not that you can't do something, we're just going to take away your ability until you comply. I mean, it's kind of what this situation is. I mean, as much as people want to talk about the science, right? The folks that are pushing this now are not really following the science themselves. For them to be science trademark kind of folks, like it's like nobody talks about natural immunity, like Grady pointed out. Nobody is talking about how the fact that the vaccine, the thing that really drives me up the wall is everyone acting like, well, I got this vaccine to help protect others and protect my family. Bullshit. No, you didn't.
Because to protect yourself.
It's to protect yourself. The initial thinking was that it was going to help stop transmission and stop you from catching it. But we have enough data now to show that it's, yes, you still can catch it, and it's not that rare for a breakthrough case to happen, and you can still spread it. You just yourself are not going to be that sick from it, which is a benefit of the vaccine. That's a very good reason to get the vaccine. But at the same time, you can still spread COVID. And if you are just showing your vaccination record from back in March, you theoretically could have a viral load in your nose when you're going to this show. And then the unvaccinated friend of yours that had just got a test a couple days earlier is actually a safer human being than all the people that are just showing their COVID vaccination card. I don't think people are following the science as much as they like to pretend they are.
I kind of agree a lot with what Rogan's point is on this, that if you're going to have, which I personally really don't agree with any of the mandates for it. If you want to go to a show, just go to a show and accept whatever risk there is, but for like what Rogan says is that the rules don't make sense.
Right.
It should either basically be negative test period or no rules, because if you're vaccinated, that does not stop you whatsoever from giving the guy with a negative test COVID.
Exactly.
And even then with 72 hours, I mean, that's 3 whole days to catch it before you go to the show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more so to me, I kind of think it's more I guess it'd be borderline extortion if you want to go to 2 shows a week, you got to get tested twice a week, which is really probably too big of a hassle for anybody to do. So they're in a backhanded way, basically trying to force you to get vaccinated.
Well, it creates another issue of othering people, right? Like you're separating the vaccinated from the unvaccinated and trying to create division and hostility of vaccinated people towards unvaccinated and vice versa. It's like when, not to get political on this, but when the president said it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated, I mean, no, it's not. It's either it's a pandemic or it's not a pandemic. It's a pandemic for everyone or it's a pandemic for no one. Like the reality is, the vaccine, I'm very pro-vaccine, but I'm very anti-mandate. I don't think you should be forced to do it. I think that you should have bodily autonomy over what you put in your body. If you assess the risk and you think that it's worth it, get it. Awesome. But you shouldn't force people to get it. And you also, at a concert, there's a certain level of risk in every decision we make. Like, what the risk is going into the concert about possibly getting the flu season, right? You could theoretically easily get the flu in a very small enclosed venue. The part that drives me up the wall is when everyone wants to act like, well, I feel safer if it's a fully vaccinated show. Well, why do you feel safer? If you got the vaccine, you're good, man. Like, seriously, you being vaccinated is not going to stop you from giving it to me or someone around you.
You're very, very likely to be good, not 100%.
Yeah. I mean, look, everything.
You're in
everything
probably
is
the 90s, but
yeah, everything's assessed risk, man. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
you pretty much won't die.
Yeah, and you likely won't go to the hospital. You might have a average to bad cold at worst for most people. For most people.
Yeah, for most people. I just hate everyone. I really do. I hate everyone.
Everything has gotten even stupider over the last year and a half.
Yeah, I just hate everyone. Like, we don't go. You don't go anywhere and say, "Hey, did you get your flu shot this year?" No, we don't do that. I mean, we don't. But now everyone loses their mind if someone comes into work with the sniffles when it's 35 degrees outside.
God forbid you sneeze around people. They look at you like you have the plague.
I'm just fed up with all of it. And like I said, as you said, there's the science with a capital S, and then there's actual science.
Actual science.
Actual science, yeah. And like I said, there was the whole. I mean, not to go too deep down the rabbit hole. I mean, the whole thing was sold wrong. It's a coronavirus. It's not polio. It's not. Yeah. It's a virus that constantly mutates.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason they say the flu vaccine in quotes, is 50 to 60% effective. They just guess which one's going to be the most virulent.
To be fair, they typically make a pretty educated guess where they get it right a lot, but they don't always get it right.
Right. And I mean,
like I don't want anyone to think we're spreading misinformation, quote unquote, or vaccine fear, because we're not. Like, I mean, I personally am vaccinated with the Pfizer shot. Like, I have no problem with the vaccine, but it was my choice. I wasn't forced into it. I get uncomfortable having to show my vaccine card, not because I'm so worried about my health records having to be out, but I don't like it's the freedom aspect of it. I don't like having
Where does it stop?
Yeah, where does it
It's my
stop? Like
thing.
I
Once you
walking into the
Yeah.
concert venue, I don't like having to show my papers, so to speak, just to be
and
able to
I'm
go
on
see a
the
show.
and I am on the inverse of you. The only reason I have not yet gotten a shot is just because board members at my employer told me I should go get it.
Well,
So I'm like, no, just because you told me to get it, I'm not getting it, which is
Yeah.
probably not the smartest decision. It's just I'm probably going to get it on my own Wednesday, but
I mean,
because they're
all
no longer in
cards-
power.
all
It's
cards,
just-
all cards on the table though. Like you're a relatively healthy 27-year-old who has already had COVID, so
yeah, I did.
no one wants to talk about the natural immunity aspect. Like,
yeah, and I still have antibodies. I did the test, and I don't remember the exact numbers. The
and
lady told me it was high.
natural immunity lasts longer and is more effective at creating reinfection or preventing reinfection than the actual vaccine. And again, let me repeat for the listeners out there who maybe are kind of turned off of what we're saying. I am fully vaccinated. I have no problem with someone choosing to get the vaccine because I myself did. But the problem is spreading, as some people in the media's favorite word, misinformation about the efficacy of the vaccine and making it seem like that you're doing it for other people. That annoys me because you're not.
And the last thing, go ahead, Andy. Go ahead.
One of like what you said with that too. It's like the venues are saying we're doing this because we care about your health. But if they don't. They'll sell you 25 beers. They're not going to take your keys, keep you from driving home.
No, yeah, exactly.
If they really cared, they take your keys. I mean, they're not.
They
gonna
wouldn't
do that.
they wouldn't serve you that many beers.
Yeah.
They
But
wouldn't
they will.
overserve you because
They don't.
I mean, we all can speak from experience being at a concert when you probably shouldn't have another drink and they still sell you another drink. Like if you're really, to Andy's point, if you're concerned about people's health, you're not going to overserve someone.
Yeah,
They're just trying to. They're acting like they care. They don't. They clearly don't care.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just, and now I want to get your guys' take on this. I know Andy is way more hardcore on this than I am from private conversations, but how do you guys feel about the data and the science, lowercase s, not capital S for the science trademark crowd, but how do you guys feel about just the idea of vaccine passports to get into the show?
Well, I'm sure you've all seen the massive 2.5 million person study they did at Israel. They found no evidence of a priorly infected and recovered person spreading COVID to another person. They have found evidence of vaccinated people spreading COVID to other people. So I take that for what it's worth. And Israel tried the vaccine passport and it didn't work.
Yeah.
People forged them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a black market opened immediately for anyone with decent computer skills and a good printer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't done this, just to be clear. I haven't done this, but I easily have the Photoshop skills to be able to, at minimum, make a negative test if I wanted to.
I mean, even the vaccine card they give you, it's not like a driver's license. It's a piece of paper on a perforated piece of paper.
But see, that's my fear, though. That's my fear, though, is like, where does it end, to Andy's point? Because at what point do we go from having the vaccine cards you get at Walgreens to, you know what, you're going to have to wear this government-issued badge to show that you're not one of the unvaccinated dirty masses. I mean, I
don't think it's going anywhere in the United States just because that law is getting struck down repeatedly.
Oh, yeah. The mandate is already put on hold from the Fifth Circuit of Appeals at the moment. But
it's not going anywhere. And two, I mean, just so we can play both sides of the aisle, it wasn't ever going anywhere on the left side of the ledger either, because unions have a very objectionable case to that it's not part of their collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
And you can't just renegotiate that without consulting them. I mean, even teachers unions and labor unions are going to bucket that just because. And even if you take somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who has I don't know if it's true or not. He says he has an allergy to something that's in the
and I have no reason not to believe that he has an allergy to something in the mRNA vaccine.
Yeah, so if he did whatever holistic medicine he said he did.
This is the problem with traditional media, though. Like if you look at the sports media, the way they treated Aaron Rodgers, just because the problem that Aaron Rodgers had was he quasi lied. Some say he outright lied to the media about his vaccination status. But
they were mad because he got them.
Yeah.
He fooled them, and they got, and they were mad about it.
And they don't like that. But the reality is the NFL knew he was unvaccinated. The Green Bay Packers knew he was unvaccinated. I actually implore anyone to go listen to his interview with Pat McAfee. He describes the process for being an unvaxxed player. There's only 2 on the Green Bay Packers roster. And the reality is the daily testing that he can't walk into the building until they get the results back. He's theoretically a safer human being to be around in the facility than are the vaccinated people who only are subject to testing every 2 weeks. Like, I just wish we could move past the point of the vaccine. I did this to protect other people. No, you didn't. You did it to protect yourself. And also, where does it stop? Because when do we change the definition of what fully vaccinated means? When do we say, well, you have to at least have your 3rd booster? I'm not necessarily know whether or not I'd get the booster. I'd have to do a little research into it and talk to my doctor, which is what I'd recommend everyone do, is talk to your healthcare professional. But I just I don't like the idea of having to show that stuff to the papers, but I think to the venue. But I think where I want to know your guys' stance on this is, are you willing to go to a concert that requires it?
As of now, I'm not.
So
I'm not going to say in the future if I'm not going to say no forever, because things can change, or I can see, or until I would say it's clearly a fully lost cause, and this is how it's going to be forever.
Yeah.
At that point, there's really no reason for me to not go.
Yeah.
But I think we're far from that aspect, because it's the only thing that requires it, right? More so universal. I know some sports
universally,
do, but it's not across the board.
In North Carolina, that's the only thing that requires it right now. If you go to other states, it's a state and local issue, right? So
I think like the Blues do in St. Louis, and
so
like certain teams and stuff.
The Carolina Hurricanes don't, because you just have to fill out a health survey online prior to showing up to the arena. Which what's the point of that? It's just a hassle, because people are if they even have had some symptoms and they really want to go to the game, they're going to lie about it. But I mean, look, this is where I am a little different than y'all. I disagree with it, but I've already gone to 2 concerts that have required it. I like concerts too much, man. I mean, hell, we have a country music podcast here. Like I've already got tickets. I'm going to go see Parker McCollum at the Ritz in January. I'm assuming the policy's still going to be there. Parker hasn't released any statements one way or the other. And honestly, I wouldn't care one way or the other what he did. I'm not somebody that's going to be like, oh, well, you said this, so you're getting political. I'm not going to listen to your music.
I will say, I don't blame any artist for playing a show regardless.
Because I mean, you got to make money, right? It's your livelihood.
I don't blame them. It's up to them.
Yeah,
I don't blame them for playing.
No,
I know a lot of people are going after the artists and all that stuff. I don't really agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, like, we've talked about this on previous episodes, but the hyper political artists, whether it be a right winger or a left winger, because we have examples of both, they annoy me. Like, I don't really give a crap what Jason Isbell or John Rich have to say about politics. I may agree with one more than the other on some issues, but I don't really care. And I don't like being preached to by anyone. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make my own decisions based on the available evidence. I'm not gonna be like, oh well, so and so told me this while he was standing on stage. I think I've changed my mind. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think this lasts much longer. Me personally, I really don't.
Honestly, when you said the thing about when you were going to Parker and I asked you about it, I was really kind of thinking this was going to be over by now.
Oh, and I want to publicly apologize you for snapping at you in our group thread. I was on some heavy pain meds from my wisdom teeth surgery, and I was kind of cranky and in pain. So I apologize for being a little bit of a dick that day.
I kind of thought, like what Kyle said today, is like, I thought that was over by now. I kind of was thinking that it was just because I didn't see anything. Nobody was talking about it anymore. I thought it was going to be done with.
Yeah.
You know,
like when I went to the Facebook page for the show, and it says nothing on there about it.
Well, what's funny? Go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, I was going to say, I also live in like a quasi black hole because I nuked most of my social media, and I live a much happier life that way. So I do kind of live in a black hole that way. But like I said, I don't think much of this is going to last much longer. I think if you just look at polls, people are just like, I got the shot. I didn't get the shot. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
It's just you get the hyper partisans that just.
Yeah. They're the folks that it doesn't matter what the data says they're not going to get the vaccine. Then you have the folks that are wearing
Just want to
7
cram it.
masks and they still stay locked up in their house because there are some people that are just afraid of taking any risks whatsoever.
Yeah. So
And
most people, I think, are done with it. They're just
I think so
like, you know
too. I mean, a good example of that is all the people that were preaching to us on social media last year are out with no mask on, being drunk at the bar now. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's like, I'm like, well, what you do on Saturday and Friday is not really what you tell me on Tuesday and Wednesday on Twitter, but
Yeah.
Twitter's not real life. So
It's
Yeah,
not. Yes, I think
I was in Denver this weekend. There is absolutely no rules there, as far as I can tell. I didn't see a rule anywhere.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like there's a live like bar band cover band kind of like bar here in Raleigh. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to, by a small chance, get them in trouble. But when they instituted the mask mandate again, like a month ago, you go up to the door and they're like, "Do you have your mask?" And you'll be like, "Yeah." They said, "All right. Once you get inside, what you do with it's on you."
so. Was that just the city of Raleigh, or was that a state thing?
It was the city of Raleigh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
that didn't exist here.
our wonderful mayor. Our wonderful mayor here in the city of Raleigh decided that she was going to employ another mask mandate, but the catch was it's not going to be enforced by law enforcement. It's going to be enforced by education. So what that means was no one was going to follow it.
Yeah, well, D-Bear, even like the height
What
of
does
it.
that even mean?
We went to a Mikhail Buck concert.
Oh God! Right in the middle of the height of the pandemic in Roanoke Rapids.
It was like right after the first wave had kind of tapered a little bit before. It was before Delta. So yeah.
Oh, it was way before Delta. This was still 2020 because it was the summer of 2020. There was like one of our buddies was the only one in there. He walked in with a mask, and about 10 minutes in, he looks around. He's like, "Well, I guess I'm taking this off."
Yeah, my sister walked up. She was like, "Who's the weird guy with the mask on?" And it was Carter.
Classic rock Carter. But no, like Carter wasn't used to that though. I mean, where me and him had been living, it was a little different. You know, people treated the mask requirements a little differently in Raleigh versus our hometown.
Yeah, and that with that stuff, like this is why you don't need to do everything nationwide based, because the farmer that lives in Wyoming who sees the guy at the feed store once a week isn't in the same risk as somebody who works in downtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
So
seriously.
Yeah. So, each people need to make their own decisions.
And depending on your health history and your age, you should be treated differentially because, according to the CDC themselves, the flu is much more dangerous for young children than COVID is. So, the idea of vaccinating your kids and making them wear masks, the cost benefit of it doesn't really make sense in my view. But I guess teach their own. I'm not going to tell someone what to do with their own kids, but I don't think that the data or the science points to forcing vaccinations amongst kids 5 to 12 years old.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as the same vein of me that says I think most of this is about done, it scares me when they start talking about kids, because I think you see the irrational and the true anger come out of people then when you start talking about their kids.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Because
that's the only thing that worries me about this.
You're 100% right on that. I think it's a good idea for older folks, 50 and up. I think it's a good idea for people with health issues.
Sure.
But I was even on the borderline of whether or not I really needed it. I'm a relatively healthy 27-year-old, but I have asthma. So the fact that I have asthma, I was like, you know what? I think the benefit of me getting the vaccine is better than not. So I got it. And the way that I was told from the powers that be was that, oh, well, you're done now. I guess I was naive for thinking that was going to actually happen. But I don't regret getting the vaccine. I think the vaccine was, I saw more good than harm with it. But I just, like I said, pro-vax, anti-mandate. I don't understand how forcing people to do things is a good idea.
I don't either. Because my thing is that you don't want the government telling you to do this because it's good for you. Because the data also shows that most likely almost as effective as the vaccine is not being obese. It'll be a cold day in hell before the government does something about that.
Yeah. One thing I just thought about, though, if this episode goes on YouTube, we might get struck down pretty quick from our big tech overlords.
Yeah. I think they just strike anything that says COVID and vaccine.
Because you're spreading COVID fear, apparently. But anyways, moving right along into our main topic of the evening. there was a record that I sent over to the guys here on Country and Cold Cans a couple weeks ago. I want to say maybe it was 3 weeks ago, but it dropped back in October. It's an artist on Big Loud Records. And I know that for half of our audience, that might turn them off because they're like, oh, well, that's the pop country label. Fair to say. But the
Big Loud, I've never even heard of it.
Big Loud. That's Wallen,
Okay,
Hardy, Jake Owen, Earn, all those guys are on that label. But
I like those guys.
But so
tell me more.
A buddy of mine sent me this record Spotify link one night, and he was like, check this song out. And then me and him both like were talking about it a little bit. I listened to it the whole rest of the weekend. I absolutely loved it. I had heard her name before, and I saw that she did a duet with Hardy on his last record, A Rock. I think she was on the song So Close. But Ashland Craft released her debut record for Big Loud called Traveling Kind. And the first song that I heard was the one, in my opinion, what is the outlier on the record. It was definitely like, it seems like it was made for radio kind of thing. But then I got to listen to the rest of the album, and I was like, you know what, this is actually really good. I really, really love her raspy voice. It kind of reminded me a little bit of, it had some vocally kind of reminded me a little bit of Morgan Wade in some ways. But also it was just pretty organic, mainstream country in the way that it should be, if that makes sense. But so you guys listened to it. What were your initial thoughts listening to Traveling Con by Ashland Craft?
The mainstream part almost surprised me because I never even crossed. I didn't know anything about it before you said. Until you said that just now, I would have never even thought that.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair to say.
I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, I get like a mesh of early Miranda Lambert and Runaway June from her. And I love me some Runaway June. And we all know, which I love Miranda Lambert. So early Miranda.
I mean, who doesn't love Miranda?
Yeah.
I'll tell you who, the hardcore Turnpike fans.
Yeah.
Andy, you remember the Turnpike fan group we were in? They hated Miranda.
Hey, don't bring it up. That's a sore topic.
They're not together now, right? Or are they still together?
Miranda and Evan?
Yeah.
No, that Evan's back with his wife and had a kid.
That's right. Okay.
Married.
Yeah,
that's right. He left her for Miranda, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm
not big on the celebrity gossip. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
not
right.
for us to have gossip hour here on Country and Cold Cans.
That's right. Yeah. Not
that
big on
story was the
gossip.
most unbelievable thing I've ever heard. That was true though.
I know. Like, I didn't believe it either, but it sounds like, the update on the Evan Felker front, it seems like all reports say he's doing really well. He actually was on a Rhett Miller live stream playing some songs not that long ago. So
Nice.
Good for Evan, man. Hopefully
Back on the straight and narrow.
Fingers crossed. Maybe we could get a Turnpike reunion sometime in the future. I don't know, but
That would be dope.
yeah, it would. But anyways, back to Ashland Craft. Kyle, I agree with you, man. Like I got some really big early Miranda Lambert vibes, both in just her overall presentation, but also in just like the subject matter. With it being a female singer, it wasn't like bubblegum, kind of like Taylor Swift, early Taylor Swift kind of sound or subject matter. It was more, it had an edge to it. And I think that's why I like Morgan Wade, and also why I like Ashland Craft, is like it has an edge to the lyrics, and it really kind of struck a chord with me. So I wanted to send it to you guys. So what were two songs, Andy, that you kind of felt were like standout tracks to you on this album?
One, it most to me, it showcased her voice was Your Mama Still Does.
Mm-hmm.
Lyrically, I don't know if it's not my favorite, probably one of my least favorite, but to me, like the chorus of that song to me really showcased by far the most what I like about her voice.
Right.
In that. And then Make It Past Georgia grew on me quite a bit. The more I listen to it, the more I like it.
Yeah, I love that.
And also to me, because I was gonna ask you guys about this too, is it for me that made me that's the song that made me realize the whole album is very themed as far as like the leaving aspect of it. And I thought that song is what really kind of made me trigger that thought where I realized that.
Yeah.
Like, where you guys, like, far as the subject matter is on how themed the whole album was, almost start to finish?
I actually agree with you on that because between Leaving You Again, Make It Past Georgia, Last $20, A Day by Day, Let You Fly, it all covers a theme of either leaving, regret from leaving, or having to let someone go,
or Traveling Kind is not that much different. And then was it Highway?
Highway Like Me, featuring Marcus
they're
King.
Almost all basically almost the same theme for the songs.
You could even well, to an extent. I mean, Mimosas in the Morning is like a really complicated relationship. That she's got going on with this dude.
Yeah, you don't know if it's actually that they're drunk and hitting it off, or if it's actually that it's actual real love. And she's like, "Well, let's talk
about it in the morning.
Talk about it in the morning, not while we're down in whiskey."
Yeah, we'll figure about the leaving part later.
Yeah,
it's like it's almost all. That's like, to me in my head, I was this is borderline a concept album. I don't think it is. It's
definitely not a concept album.
Nah, but it's very themed. Though,
that phrase gets thrown out too liberally
album.
Sometimes. But
it's not. But it's themed sort of.
There is a common thread throughout the record. For the most part, I get what you're saying. So Kyle, what are 2 standout tracks for you from Traveling Con?
So I like Mimosas in the Morning, as I just mentioned, because to me, that is the song that most reminds me of Runaway June. The way she carries those notes. And also I think it's the most different on the album, in a way, because as you said, a lot of them are talking about leaving or staying, where this one's like, it's not really a breakup song, but it's not really
a love song either. It's like the name of the song on Morgan Wade's album, I believe it's was it Matches and Metaphors? Yeah.
It's kind of what it reminded me of. And so that, I like that one just because I think it shows off her vocal talent really well. Now, the song with Marcus King, I don't really know what analogy they're trying to make. I didn't put that in my top 2. I just don't think a Highway Like Me. I thought it was kind of throwaway. Maybe I'm missing something.
I didn't really get it either.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of like a lame. I mean, the song's fine. I just thought be like a Highway Like Me. I'm like, what are you trying to say here? I don't really know what that means. But the other one I picked, I like Let You Fly, and that one,
That's my third.
Yeah, I just think it shows off her vocal talent the most. I mean, it kind of falls into the leaving part of the album, but I didn't really judge that song lyrically. I just like the voice in it the most.
Well, what I like about that song, Let You Fly, is like it's looking at it from the perspective of she's talking to her significant other, or now soon to be former significant other, and saying, you know what, like, as much as I want this to work, I'm going to have to let you go and let you fly. It's you can't hold a wild horse down, right? So it's one of those songs. One of the things, kind of pivoting back to Mimosas in the Morning, I agree with you. I really like that one because I love the alliteration in the hook of the song with Mimosas and Morning, because it's a hook that I haven't really heard used a lot. It's not like a very cookie cutter hooked for the chorus. But it's just like it's kind of a fun song in some ways. I
also like it because as we said with a lot of the Morgan Wade album, you don't hear a lot of these things from the perspective of a woman.
No, yeah, it's not very quote unquote cliche in the sense of what people think they expect from a female record.
Right. I mean, women go through relationship troubles just like men do. But it's always interesting to hear that from a alternative perspective.
No, Andy, I want to point back to one that you mentioned, 2 of them actually. Like, you couldn't have picked 2 very different songs that I have differing feelings about. The one the positive first, Make It Past Georgia. I love that song. That was probably my early favorite when I first listened to it. I'm not going to say that it's the deepest song from a songwriting perspective, but it works because she uses, like, instead of like naming guys' names or something, like think like how Kip Moore did and Mary was the Marion kind, how he named different girls' names and like what their personalities were and why, or did or didn't work. This one, she named like the area they were from, and she kept going through the list of like, Dallas kind of had a way about him. I really thought we had a thing. I even thought about a couple acres once or twice with New Orleans, and then it's like the chorus, it kind of does the same thing. and going into how I love how it says, I don't miss a thing about Mississippi, but Carolina keeps calling me because she's a South Carolina girl. So shout out. But it said, but she just can't make it past Georgia. And it's like, it works in two ways. Like one, it's almost like she's having a hard time leaving Georgia because of the relationship, but also she can't emotionally get past the Georgia boy that, I guess held her heart in some way. Then in the second verse, she gets to really talking about, she takes it away from the regions as a whole, but to Georgia specifically, and different things that happened throughout their time together in Georgia, whether it was being by the coast or being in Macon or taking him to, or he took her to his favorite bar. And then that's where, she broke his heart. I think this song works in an incredible way, especially coming from a mainstream record.
And a lot of times I find too, when people generally use a town instead of someone's name, a lot of times it comes off as kind of corny.
Right.
And this didn't at all.
Yeah.
So that was one of the other things, the way it really worked, where generally when I've heard, it's not the first time I've heard like basically that song, but they never worked before. And this, to me, it worked this time.
Yeah.
It's not like I really tell you why it did, but it just does this time, where, that's what makes good songs good.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, the song that you mentioned that I can't say that I dislike it, but I tend to skip it more often than not. I think it's the weakest track on the album is Your Mama Still Does. Sonically, it's by far.
It's her voice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get that aspect of your point. I get that aspect of your point, but like sonically, this song sounds very Nashville. It sounds very pop country, made for radio. We're trying to get something to chart. And I understand, like, I'm a pragmatic guy, right? I think that, as kind of the Dierks Bentley model, this is the Drunk on a Plane of this album. It's meant for mass consumption to try to get some recognition and some traction. So I really would not have thought that. I would have thought that would have been more of just an album cut that nobody really listened to. I think it was the single, if I'm not mistaken.
Make It Past Georgia was a single, I thought.
Well, at this point, I don't know which one was the lead single to radio, though. There were multiple singles that were released on Spotify, but I don't know which one was sent to radio. That I need to check and see.
I think Make It Past Georgia is number one on Spotify as far as
well, that's for streams, but that doesn't mean it's the radio single, though.
Yeah, but who listens to the radio anymore?
Surprisingly, more people than you realize do. I don't. I think the radio is awful most of the time, but I
agree with you, D-Bray. You can almost get that vibe as soon as the guitar cuts in at the beginning of the song. You're like, yeah,
it's the least country song on the album.
Yeah, I don't care nothing about the whole song other than the chorus, where she almost basically sounds like Janis Joplin. That's all I care about.
Well, see, this is the one song I thought that her raspiness felt kind of
washed
forced.
out in the mix, kind of.
Yeah, forced. Yeah, I was like, she can hold a note. Why is she sounding like this?
Right.
And that was my complaint with it.
I would say, to what you said, Kyle, is I think Let You Fly is a lot cleaner in her voice.
Right, yeah.
This one to me is just like the dirtier version of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Hey, it's a beautiful thing about America. We could both have opinions.
Yeah. Kyle, that's not true. You're canceled for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the two, since Andy already mentioned Make It Past Georgia, I won't talk about that one again. But
speaking of making it past Georgia, do you think she's talking about Riley Green, our resident Georgia boy?
I'd venture to say
Riley Green's from Alabama.
Well, he always sings about Georgia.
He's gonna hate you for that.
He sang about Georgia in one song that was called Georgia Time, and he was talking about a girl that he met that also was from Alabama. But
didn't
she's
he have another song about Georgia on that EP?
A lot of songs about Alabama.
Yeah.
Maybe fuck if I know what I'm talking about. I guess Swanee always sung about Georgia. So sweet. Man. Terrible lyrics.
No, you're just wrong on that.
Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah, damn.
Just no.
Yeah, but two that I think that I really like, and it's, I mean, as we like to say here on Country and Cold Cans, sad songs make us happy. I really like Day by Day. It's just talking about the aftermath of a breakup, doing what you can to get by, and just as the hook to the song says, taking it day by day. And that one, I don't know why I'm drawn to songs like that, but I am. And then the other one is Leaving You Again. I really like.
I forgot about that one. I just saw that on the
list. I really like Leaving You Again, because it's like, it's almost like she's in and it's not even that it's a relationship, but she's involved with a guy that she already left once, but keeps going back to for whatever reason. And she realizes that it's probably best for the both of them if they just call it off. But and what was the line in the chorus where it says, she really wonders what life would look like if she would have just stayed gone.
Ain't no telling what life would look like if
I just stayed gone the first time. Yeah, but here I am leaving you again. And I kind of like that, you know, I'm having, it's a cool take on the whole, I can't quit someone's your love is a drug kind of overused trope that has been used in country music, mainstream country a lot. But the same reason you like your mama so does is why I love Leaving You Again. The rasp in her voice when she goes
when
up
she
high.
does that ain't no telling.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
I agree with that. That one's good too.
Yeah, that was where I think it showcased it the best in my view.
To me, the thing it's the same there, but to me, in Your Mama So Does, it's just longer. It's just more seconds of the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same reason why I like Stevie Nicks and vocalists like female vocalists like that, because it
pre or post cocaine.
100% pre-cocaine Stevie.
Difference.
Yeah, pre-cocaine Stevie.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
Stevie circa
post is very flat.
Stevie circa 78 or so. Like, listen, go on YouTube
Midnight
and
Special.
type in the live version of Rhiannon from 78.
Yeah, Midnight Special. Yeah, that's killer.
That was a fantastic rendition.
About what year did Stevie get clean?
I don't know.
Off the cocaine.
Oh, I have no idea.
Did she?
Okay. Is there a hard line somewhere?
No, I have no. We just know that like by the mid 80s, her voice was not early 80s. Her voice was not anywhere close to what it was in the late 70s.
Early 80s. Okay. It was like 78, kicking ass. 79. This is odd. 80 is, massive change.
Yeah, it's not the same when you listen to her vocally. But yeah, but like Stevie's voice, same thing I love about Morgan Wade's voice is, and it's what I love about Ashland Craft. It's just there's something very appealing and very just I really like that raspiness in a female singer's voice.
What would you think about like Janis Joplin? Because to me, hers would be a lot dirtier. It's
the funny thing about Janis Joplin is, as much as like raspy voices, I don't love Janis Joplin's voice. I think it's a little too much.
It's not clean. To me, I kind of like Janis Joplin's version, Bobby McGee.
Right.
Like that's kind of really like dirty, and to me, that's more the sound of Your Mama Still Does.
Well, see, what I think
dirtier rasp.
What I think I like about Ashland's and Morgan Wade and early Stevie Nicks rasp was it wasn't every single note. Whereas I felt like that when Janis Joplin was singing, it was like over the top. Not saying she was doing it on purpose, but it was just like it was overkill to my ears versus what theirs is like.
To me, it's kind of how Chris Stapleton is.
Chris Stapleton objectively is a fantastic vocalist, but it's the same issue I have with Carrie Underwood's music. Like Carrie Underwood is a fantastic vocalist, and the same way Chris Stapleton is, but I think they overdo it sometimes with the having like the very screaming kind of sound of singing.
No.
It's impressive, but like you don't have to do it that many times on a record.
Yeah, I would agree with that because, I don't understand why people do it when they can carry a note.
It's hard to do. I think that it just shows off vocal acrobats and
maybe.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's impressive, but it's like I don't need to hear it every song, every performance.
Yeah. To me, it makes more sense in rock music, is what like Chris Cornell can do.
Way.
It makes to me, it makes more sense in that genre.
Yeah, it fits that kind of grunge style,
or blues as well, like Memphis blues, that type style. It just fits to me a lot better.
Whereas done
virtually what Chris Stapleton does.
Yeah, done selectively in country music, it can really pack a punch, but it doesn't need to be done over and over again. But
can't argue with that.
Yeah, so I do want to bring up Last $20, dude. I think that's just a shit kicker of a fun song.
The song was okay to me.
That was not the reaction I was hoping for. You both were quiet. Andy's
I don't know. I just
damn it, Andy. Know. You didn't pick up on me.
To me, I don't know. I don't know how old is she?
I don't know. I would venture to say she's somewhere in the ballpark of our age.
Okay, so
she's probably a little younger.
Age,
she's probably a little younger.
I was thinking maybe our age, a little older. But I don't know. Just to me, what struck me is almost like Luke Bryan singing for all these college girls. It's like, to me, like at some point, we probably should make smarter decisions than spending our last $20 on alcohol.
Yeah, but it's just a fun song.
I know, but
you need songs like that. You can't be
that's
all...
not fun. That's terribly sad.
Yeah, this is
Andy,
this was the dive bar hit on the album.
That that's a fun song live though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I mean, Andy, you say that, and then you pimp out Co Wetzel's entire discography.
I don't know. That one just struck me as like, I feel like we're maybe a little too old to be singing about this.
She's not even that old. Like,
yeah, I don't
Andy,
if you're over 20, if you're over 25, you should make smarter financial decisions than that.
I agree with that, but you have become lame as fuck in the last 2 years. You can't even let the girl have a fun song for concert.
So,
hey, well, Luke Bryan don't need to keep singing about these college girls. It's creepy.
Yeah,
well no one's disagreeing with you on that, but like,
yeah.
Same thing.
I would like to voice my frustration with Spotify on this one song. I turned off shuffle on this album.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the first time I heard this song was today, refreshing myself. It just never played it. All the times I listened through the album. And I was like, where? I had to make sure this was part of the album. And I was like, oh, it is. Why have I never heard this song before?
Yeah.
And I just don't know what Spotify does sometimes.
Well, you know, the thing is, though, Kyle, Andy started listening to stock market podcasts and reading books, and now he can't even enjoy
he's all about them
honky-tonk song. Yeah, the stonks, the stoinks.
Yeah, now he's all in crypto and diversifying his portfolio.
I did get him into crypto.
Hey, now let's be honest. Okay, we need to rephrase. Crypto is for degenerate gamblers.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I need to get into crypto, but yeah. So,
but and what you said about Spotify, day by day I have no recollection of that song.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have spent your last $20 on beer at the bar, Andy, and you should have listened to the album.
Andy, you know, I think
Spotify might be fucking us.
This must be what it's like to get old, because I find myself constantly just not even remembering songs and information.
Yeah, dude, literally.
Case in point, the Riley Green comment I just made.
Yeah, you were just like, he's a Georgia boy, really. Now he's from Alabama.
I just find myself completely just not remembering things.
I can top you on even better than that. This one's almost embarrassing. I almost got concerned for my own health. I had to call my mom and ask her if I graduated college.
I remember that you graduated college because
I was going to have to ask somebody.
I went and had to knock on his bedroom door because his mother, his father, and his grandmother were standing in the living room. Andy was still asleep, and they were supposed to pick him up and take him to his graduation.
Actually, I'm not far off of that, because the night before we had my graduation, you know, the actual graduation was on the day before the big one that everybody does on the football field.
Yeah.
And I had went and got totally shit-faced.
And spent your last $20.
Yeah, I did, because I think I graduated with like 35.
It's acceptable at that age.
In my checking account. And my parents came back the next day for the thing at like 11 o'clock, and they were banging on the door. And I think Jordan walked in and opened the door in his boxers. I was still asleep in the basement, you know, like we had that townhouse.
Yeah. And what was that, Sunchase?
No, that was at Copper Beach.
Beach, that's right.
Yeah. And my mom walked, she's like, hey, you ready? You tell I'm just hungover as hell. Like,
you were like, wait, what's today?
What's today? She's like, I don't know how you graduated. This is what you're like. I was like, damn. I went out there in that heat of May, just hungover as hell, wearing that stupid cap and gown. Miserable.
Well, you know what I did? I skipped the big graduation because at NC State, they graduate at PNC in the air conditioner, but it's at 9 a.m. You don't even walk. It's too big of a graduation.
I didn't want to do
up.
that one.
So I just was like, screw that. I'm not doing that. So I went to my departmental graduation, and it was at 1 o'clock. My parents were already at Tally Student Center where we were graduating, and I was late. Shocker. I was late to my own graduation. I didn't even have a tie. My brother had to.
I didn't either.
Yeah, my brother had to give me a tie as I was running in the building with the gown unzipped, having to put the tie on just so I could get in line. I was like, yep. And I was like, this is the perfect way for me to graduate, because it describes I was late everywhere. Class didn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm still late everywhere to this day.
Yeah, same here. You can ask Bailey. It annoys her when we go somewhere, and I'm like, she's like, we're supposed to be there at 4. I'm like, well, no, we're meeting D-Bear at 4, so
that'd be 4:30, 4:45.
That means he'll be there around 4:30. So we have a good hour till we need to leave. She's like, well, I was like, why are we going to be there if we're just gonna sit there by ourselves for 30 minutes. I was like, yeah, we have time. Calm down. I don't like to be late. It's like, well, 30 minutes late is on time for me. Look,
Pretty much, yeah.
I've learned from memes that Logan's lateness is a culture that I will never understand.
It is a culture.
It's not that it's that big for being late, but my thing is I was not aware that so many people Logan's like, I'll text him we're on the way. I'm gonna go take a shower. And I was like, why don't we just tell him we're gonna be late? Like, I don't see the point in lying. Just tell them we're going to be late.
Look, you don't want them to talk trash any sooner than they already are going to.
Yeah.
So you just kick the can down the road and let them get mad at you when you get there.
Oh, yeah. The worst thing that ever happened in mine and Bailey's relationship was location sharing. And not for the reasons you might think. It's just, I would be like, all right, I'm on the way. And she'd be like, you're still at your fucking house. And I'll be getting in the shower.
It's like our buddy Clinton's dad once said, technology is going to kill a player.
It is, man. All right, I'm on the way. And then they have 20 minutes later, I'm still at the house. I haven't even got off the couch yet to go take a shower.
Dude,
she's learned me now. Now, if we need to leave at 9:30, she's like, we got to leave at 8:30.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, yeah. I remember I saw a meme the other day. It was very, very true. I felt it on a personal level. It said, me rushing out the door at 9:15 so I can get there by 9.
Yeah. I think I had 9 o'clock class my senior year, and I would leave my apartment at like 9:05. Yeah. It was a 20-minute drive across town. I'd roll up in there at 9:30 every day.
My senior year at State, I had one class. It was my last semester. I was already kind of ready to get out of there at that point. And I was like, it was a grad student that was teaching the class. She was real cool about it. Like the first couple of days, she would shut the door and I would just kind of open the door and quietly walk into. I sat in the front row. So I was like, everybody's on me. I stopped caring after the second day. And then after about the second week, she started leaving the door cracked for me. And I would look at her and I'd nod at her and I'd be like, hell yeah, thank you. And then it's like I told her one time, I was there early for the last class of the semester. And she looked at me, she goes, Logan, you're on time today, or in fact, you're early. What's happening? I said, well, I figured I owed it to you one time for me to show up on time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember when I did my internship. I showed up late, like the first day or whatever, and he was like, "Hey man, you just want to come in at like 12?" I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, that actually works perfectly.
Yes. He was all right. Just come in at 12. I was like, all right, fuck yes,
dude. I'm not a morning person at all. I'm very much a night owl. So it's like I can stay up with you as long as I need to, but me getting somewhere early in the morning, it's a struggle. And that struggle is real.
Yeah, when I got my first job
about going west, it just the time just keeps moving in your favor.
Yeah, awesome. When I got my first day on my first job, whatever, my boss was like, "Yeah, you're not a morning person, are you?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Preferably, I would prefer if you didn't talk to me till about 9." He was like, "We can arrange that." I was like, "Okay." I need an hour to wake up while I'm here.
Yeah, seriously, I need to get in, drink a couple cups of coffee, then I'm ready to rock and roll from there, man. Like I'm wide open, but I don't love those morning things where as soon as you sit down at your desk, people are coming to you for things. I'm just like, give me 30 minutes.
You don't talk to me.
It's the same thing when you get home in the evenings. Like you get home and you want to just relax, unwind for 30 minutes, and then like somebody will call you and you're having to talk to them on the phone. You're just like, ugh. Like, just call me 30 minutes later from now.
You don't like talking to people, do you?
Well, it's only if you really look at
almost the entire day.
No, if you
not in the morning, can't talk during work. I'm at work. When I get off work, no, not right now.
If you really look at what I said, though, it's only like an hour out of the day. 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. Everywhere in between or after is fair game. But
so
just give me that 1 hour.
You're going to show up late for work, not to talk to anybody. And then while you're at work, answer the phone and talk to somebody all day.
Well, people at my work love to talk, myself included. I mean, so there's lots of we don't have walls in the office, so it's like lots of conversation going on. But
yeah,
well, I can't tell you enough how much Country and Cold Cans we very much recommend checking out Ashland Craft's new record, Traveling Kind, from Big Loud Records. Fantastic album, especially for a mainstream release. Check that out on Spotify, buy the record, whatever. Go see her in a concert. While we're at it, make sure you go on over to countrycoldcans.com. That's countrycoldcans.com and go pick you up a Country and Cold Cans neoprene koozie. See if it'll let me put it on the screen here. The background's messing up with it, so oh well. Go on the website, countrycoldcans.com. You'll be able to see it there. Check out our Richardson 112 and Richardson 113 rope hats that we have for sale. Help support the podcast. Let us be able to float the boat a little bit longer and keep bringing content to you here on this podcast. So, well, you guys have any closing statements before we wrap things up here?
Yes, I have a PSA/question for the world. I believe Hardee's has changed the way they cook their fries. If this is across the board, Hardee's has the best fries. Now,
speaking of Hardee's, I was told by a reliable source, aka someone who used to work for Hardee's, only the Hardee's in Roanoke Rapids and the one in Rocky Mount cook fried chicken.
There, as of 5 years ago, there were 13 left in the country, and two of them are from where we're from.
Yeah,
and
it's
not
somebody
like
who used to work there.
And for clarification, for all you folks out there that are in the Carl's Jr. neighborhoods and the Hardee's outside of where we're from, he's not talking about like the filet or the chicken sandwich. He's talking about like bone-in
fried
Southern fried chicken. Yeah, it's very few left.
Like two-piece white.
Yeah. Gaston, North Carolina, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. Both locations are Roanoke Rapids, Rocky Mount, and Matthews, Virginia. I know off the top of my head, all 5 of those still have fried chicken.
I don't think the one in by the interstate, I don't think it does anymore.
No. The one in Gaston?
No, the one in Roanoke Rapids.
Oh, okay.
It's just the one on 10th Street by the Domino's.
Well, that's a shame because I used to eat that on lunch breaks when I was back home in the summers working.
Yeah, that was before the Hardee's headquarters moved out of Rocky Mount to wherever they're at now.
Well, they moved in 01.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be in Rocky Mount, but one day we should talk about the North Carolina chain fast food restaurants as a small segment because we actually have a disproportionate amount of solid fast food restaurants that were founded here.
Yeah.
Well, for this episode of Country and Cold Cans, I'm Logan sitting here with Andy and Kyle, and we will see you next time.
1, 2, 3, 4.